Okay, I'd like to continue with the basic typography, and so you'll go to where your file is located. Hopefully you've used your naming convention here, and like I said, I like to use the column view when browsing on an Apple computer. One of the feature that's kind of nice when you're browsing for files, if you go to a PDF or a multi-page document, a lot of times right here in the preview screen of the file, you can flip through the pages of the document. And on this Illustrator file, currently it's only one page, so we can only see the one that we've worked on. And as simple as opening this file, you just go to it, make sure that it is the .ai file, which is Adobe Illustrator, and if you just double click on it, it will open Illustrator for you. There's other methods of opening that I like to use. Obviously you can take the file that you want to open, you can drag it right to the dock, to the program that you want to open. This is helpful whenever you're trying to open a Illustrator file, but you don't want to use Illustrator. You want to take it to Photoshop or something to rasterize it or do some Photoshop effect or something like that. So you can drag that Illustrator file to Photoshop and it'll start asking you some questions, but we'll go over that later. And I'll just close Photoshop. We don't need that one for this project. So let's get back to Adobe Illustrator and work on our type basic. Right now we can't see the whole page, but if you hit Control-0, it will zoom out to the whole page. If you want to zoom in, you can use the magnifying glass. Shortcut for it is Z. Also, you can hit Control+ and that will zoom in. So I want you to be aware of using different fonts, but I want you to use the serif and the sans serif. But I want you to use different fonts than what I have on here. So don't use Helvetica and don't use Times New Roman. Use different fonts that are the same type. So use a serif for over here, a sans serif for over here. So change them a little bit, which we did on ours. Make sure that you're working in layers too, and you want to lock your source layer. So here we go. We got these two last names with an X. You're showing your X height, cap height, baseline. You're saying what kind of font it is, the family of font or the name of the font, Baskerville and Lucinda. So let's continue on. So I want you to show an apex, a vertex, a loop, and a bowl, a descender and ascender. So one of the things you could do to do this ascender, you could go to something that you've already done up here. You can take all this. I'm on the black arrow tool, and I will select all this, and I will just copy it. I'm just using Alt, holding Alt, and then clicking and dragging to make a copy of it. I'll take these letters here, and I'll make sure that I'm using an ascender and a descender. Let's see what letters I used on this one. JXF. Okay, let's go ahead and use those same ones. JXF. Just to kind of show our X height here, and an ascender and a descender. And you can just take these lines on the end and squinch them up. Oh, and this one I labeled the baseline and put a little dotted line under there, so let's show you that here. So we'll just shift this down here. I'll get rid of these and I'll just use this. And what we want to label here is the descender, and the descender is one of those parts that falls below the baseline. The ascender is a part that goes above the X height. Now bear in mind that these are lowercase letters, and that's typically talking about the lowercase form of the letter for the ascender and the descender. So let's get those labeled on here. I'll draw a circle. We'll use the circle tool here, and right now it has a white fill with a black stroke, so let's get rid of the stroke. And I don't want it to have a white stroke. I'd like it to have a gray, I'm sorry, not a stroke. Instead of a white fill, I want it to have a gray fill. So we use the circle tool, which is hidden right underneath the rectangle tool. So if you're on the rectangle tool, click and hold it, and go to the ellipse tool, and that will help you draw your circle. So let's go here to the ascender here, and right now the circle is above the ascender here, so we can send that to behind. And I did that by holding Command, the Apple key, Command, Shift, and left bracket. Or you could just right click it and say Arrange, send to back. I'd like to see how I labeled it. Oh, I used a little bit different situation. Let me just show you how to do that real fast. Take that off. I'm going to draw a line to where the F is and give it a stroke. We don't need the fill. That's how you get rid of the fill with this none. So here's this, and we'll give it, I'm going to use the eyedropper tool. Shortcut for that is I. And I'll click on this to capture this color. See how it captured that? And I was using the eyedropper tool. We'll go to the stroke palette here, and I'm going to change it to be one of these circles on the end. That should be good right there. A little bit big, so we can change the size of it to 85. And now you want to call this the ascender. And you can check your spelling right here. In which I had it misspelled, so I'll just change it right there. That should be good. And if you want your labeling to be consistent, you can highlight your letters, use the eyedropper tool, and just click on something else that is labeled the way that you want to be consistent with. So now these are the same size font. They're the same font, and they're the same size font. Exactly the same size. See right here. Okay, so we got ascender, baseline X height. The ascender goes above the X height. Now let's do the descender. Once we have this labeling that we like, we can just take it and copy it. And you can use the white arrow tool, the direct select tool, to edit what you're working on here. So I'll take that, kind of move it around here. I'm going to alt click and drag ascender, and I will call this one the descender. I'll check the spelling on that. And I did need the C in there. Okay, so we got the ascender, the descender. The descender falls below the baseline. The ascender goes above the X height. Let's put some of these other elements on here, and if you need to remember what to put up here, just look at the source. So we're going to put an apex, vertex, loop, and a bowl. I'm going to go to the type tool. I'll type out a letter A, and I can change the size of the font right here. If you just highlight this, you can arrow up on your keyboard and make this larger. Now, typically the fonts that have the flat point at the top is not necessarily called a apex. You need the pointy type, so we'll change the font, and we can just start at the top of the list, and you can just arrow through these to find the one that you think looks like an ascender. That one's pretty close, a little flat at the top. That one's pretty good. Oh, it's Baskerville. Okay, we can use that one. That is fine. And what we can do is use the ellipse tool. I'm holding shift to make it a true circle. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, the letter I. Click on that, and I'll just set it right behind the letter A. I'm using the shortcut Command Shift left bracket, but if you can't remember that, right click it, arrange, send it back. There's the apex. I'm going to take this, I'm going to change this letter to a V, and now we have the apex and the vertex. I'm going to copy this for the consistency. Vertex, apex, and vertex. I'm going to hit Command S for saving. So make sure when you save these things, Apple S or Command S is just save, so it saves wherever you saved it before and whatever you called it. But if you want to change the name or tell it where you want to save it, you'll have to do save as. And we saved it with our naming convention, and we put it in the basic typography folder in the documents folder. So we have that saved.